sure if we're actually, oh, perfect. Stream is live in 10 seconds. All right, excellent. I think we're officially live. Hi, everyone. Welcome today. Excited to connect with all of you. I wish I could see your faces, but unfortunately, that's just not how webinars go. We do have the studio chat. Just before we get into introductions and all of that, if you have questions throughout the presentation, I'll obviously be asking Sheetal questions, but feel free to put them into the chat. And then whatever we have time for towards the end, we'll make sure to address anything that's relevant. And then we're not going to bore you with stuff about Cogent Infotech or university today. That's not what you're here for. If you have questions about the business or anything like that, and you do put them in the chat, I will address it at the very end if there's something that we need to do there. But really want to focus on Women's History Month, International Women's Day, which was this past week. So we'll hop into things. If we haven't met, my name is Sarah. I'm from Cogent University, which is part of the Cogent Infotech brand. I support many areas of our university program, and I really have a special focus and admiration in my heart for finding what our employer clients really value the most and really imparting that into all areas of the business, whether that's how we're supporting our bench candidates, whether that's any curriculum needs that are there. And that's what my day-to-day is really focusing on the value of our employer clients and what they need. So that brings me to Sheetal, and I'm really excited to introduce her because we met back in the fall. We were connected through Grace Hopper, which is a wonderful presentation put on by the Anita B organization. So if you're not familiar with that, definitely look into it. You don't have to be a woman to be a part of it or go to the events. It definitely is about lifting women up and those opportunities and those interests and sharing their knowledge. But all are welcome there. So it's a wonderful event, and so happened to be in Chicago, which is where I am based. So I got to attend that this past year, and that was excellent. But today we're excited because we're spotlighting Sheetal from Rensselaer Consulting. And this is really a focus for us this month because of Women's History Month. So today we're talking about Give to Gain. And it's really a conversation about how investing in women on your team or in yourself, if you are a woman, how that drives innovation, performance, and really sustainable growth, not just at your company, but across the industry, and how it affects all of us positively. So with that, you can see on our screen here, I'm going to pass to Sheetal so we can kind of kick things off by having you introduce yourself to us. And I'd love to hear not only about you, but a little bit about where you are currently in your career, and we'll start things off there.
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. Hi, everyone. I'm Sheetal Pathange. I currently work as a data scientist and a strategy specialist at Rensselaer Consulting, where I get to work with a lot of data and business strategy and a lot with program managers in the transportation industry. My background is in information systems, and my journey into tech has been a bit of an unexpected one, but it's been driven by a lot of curiosity and a real interest in how data can help organizations make better decisions. But before we dive in, I just want to say thank you to Cogent and to you, Sarah, for bringing this panel together and for inviting me to be part of this conversation today. I'm super excited to be here today and looking forward to sharing my perspective moving forward. To talk a little bit more about my journey in tech, it definitely has not been like a straight line, and in many ways that's what shaped it the most. I started my career at Amazon back in India. At the time, I was working on the technical side, which was interesting because during my undergraduate degree, it was in computer science, I realized something very important about myself, that my heart wasn't really into coding, but I still knew I wanted to stay very close to technology. That's what really fascinated me, to know more about how technology drives the decisions and the impact. And that kind of the curiosity also led me to discover the master's program that I did at Penn State, which was information systems. That was like the perfect blend of technology and the business strategy, exactly where my interests aligned. And during that time, I started realizing something way more powerful like everything around us, every system, or every decision or every movement, it is all driven by data. So that realization that pushed me to explore that more into the intersection of like data strategy or product thinking, and that led me to get an internship at T Connectivity, where I worked as a data like a product management intern. It was a completely like industrial hardware product space, which truly gave me the exposure to how technology translates into real world products. But soon after that, things have been evolving, and I started working in different industries, and now I'm working at a transportation industry. So it's been a really great journey so far. So it's
Yeah.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And for anyone interested in hearing kind of about your journey too, I actually had found a great article that you had on LinkedIn that Renzel had posted,
Yeah.
Coding to Consulting. That was a really great highlight. And something that I really noticed from that is how many different industries and different areas that you have touched on your career
Yeah.
journey, which I find really interesting. And I think it's a really good example of when we're in our career journeys, we need to throw ourselves at different things, not aimlessly or not without guidance, right? Not just at anything, but with things that we know will make us uncomfortable and grow a little bit. And I, myself, I've been in some form of sales for 20 years. And that was a similar thing that happened to me when I joined the boot camp industry and then realized how much I love being in this kind of learning space. But one thing that I noticed that you said was one of your favorite projects was getting to help redo the website, like not just the physical like looks of the website and all of that, but actually the interviews with clients and everything that had gone into it. So I love hearing that. And I love just hearing how you're so interested in many different areas. I think it makes us all better, not just for the companies that we work for, but for ourselves and our own, personal acumen. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Absolutely. So I've always been very much enthusiastic and still am very much enthusiastic about learning new things. I don't like to like limiting myself into just one industry or just one thing or the one aspect. I think having that curiosity to learn every single day in different things, I think that's has really helped me a lot. That's where that openness got me this opportunity to that project with Renzel Consulting, which was the website development. I do not have any prior experience with web development, honestly. But then I was really willing to have that, take on the challenge as an opportunity and show that I would be able to learn and build that up, and everybody is capable of learning, right?
Yeah.
So that truly has brought me that interest towards that project. I took that as a new challenge and I signed up for it. And it was through our own university. Like we had something called a Line Link program, which runs within Penn State. With that, collaborates the Penn State alumni with recent grads and have the alumni post the project. And that's where I got to sign up for this project. And I signed up in the expectation of learning and nothing beyond that. I wanted to learn, I wanted to showcase what I'm capable of. And that way, the web development project that really helped me build company's website from the ground up. And especially being an international student, even a single opportunity like that is a huge deal, right? And while I was working on the project as well, I was giving multiple other interviews like for my full-time job, and I faced like many rejections, especially making it to the final rounds at the big companies and not getting the offer. But instead of like seeing those moments as failures, I use them as opportunities to keep learning, improving, and showing what I could bring to the table. And at Renzel, even though there wasn't like a quote unquote a formal role for data scientists at that time, I showed what I was capable of. And equally importantly, I was able to show my willingness to learn and adapt quickly, because it's a completely different industry, which is transportation. And I'm a completely tech, computer science, information systems background student. And that's how it eventually evolved into my current role. And honestly, if someone had told me like 5 or 6 years ago that I would be working in a transportation industry, I would definitely laugh at them. But today, seeing how how that work we do truly helps improve the safety on highways and better travel experience for people, that gives me an incredible sense of purpose. Because when you see your work translating into like real impact for society,
Yep.
it becomes more than just a job, right? It becomes motivation to what you do every single day.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I know we feel that every single day at university and getting to support
yeah.
those folks that we come across. So absolutely understand that and totally agree with you. Thinking back to something you just said, 5 or 6 years ago, if you would have told you one thing, you wouldn't have believed it. I'm sure all of us can have those kind of aha moments looking back at things. And I'm sure you've had many of them. I've mentioned this in one of our marketing sheets for this, but you were recognized as a finalist for a Women in Tech Next Generation Award. So thinking about kind of how you are maybe now supporting women, can you talk about from your perspective, like from people helping you and now how you're maybe helping women? Why do you think it's
Yeah.
so important that we continue to invest in women entering and advancing in these technical roles? Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for mentioning that about my Women in Tech Next Generation recognition, because being named as a finalist was truly an honor. But more importantly, moments like that, it remind me why investing in women in tech matters so much. Because
Mhm.
women today are not just like participants in technology, like we are the change makers shaping the future of it. And for a long time, many workplaces didn't always like give women equal opportunities to lead or make decisions or have their voice heard fully. There are still moments where women may be talked over or their perspectives overlooked. But the good news is that things are evolving, right? Today, women are increasingly taking their rightful seats at the table and bringing ideas, leaderships, and perspectives that strengthen the organizations. And something that I deeply believe what is that when women lead, they rarely think only about themselves. They also think about the people around them, their teams, their communities, and the generations that follow.
Yep.
So those are some things that makes me truly believe why it's so much important to invest in women in tech, because it's not just about equality. It's about creating the future where innovation that reflects everyone's voice and everyone's need,
Yeah.
in my perspective. Um, and and coming to the point where you asked me about bringing the impact in other women's life and how others have brought that impact in my life. Um, I do a lot of mentorship. I'm with a few there are some central Pennsylvania organizations that I'm currently associated with, where I am a mentor, and it's my first year mentoring, and it's been an incredible year because mentorship definitely has played an incredible, meaningful role in my journey. But the reason I mentor others today, it goes beyond just returning a favor. There are two main reasons that are very, very close to my heart. Firstly, because mentoring genuinely brings me immense joy. Knowing that I can support someone in navigating their career, sharing advice, or simply encouraging them during the moments of uncertainty, I think that feeling is deeply fulfilling for me. And the second reason is something I think about often, is that I want to become the kind of leader and mentor that I once wished I had.
Yeah.
Someone who is selfless with their knowledge, someone who supports others without expecting anything in return, someone who makes people feel that they're not alone in their journey, because there are
Yep.
many who are walking the similar path. Because sometimes the most powerful thing mentorship provides is not just answers, it's the sense of belonging and togetherness, right? And
Yep.
that feeling that someone is walking alongside you and supporting you as you grow, it means a lot. And when we
Absolutely.
create that environment for others, I think we build stronger communities and really strong leaders for the future.
Yep,
So
absolutely. And we're not just speaking to women in this, we're also talking to men, lifting everyone up.
yeah.
And I also can speak for myself. I've had many bosses, women and men, and I've had a lot of great opportunities and mentorship from both. So that's always appreciated as well. So hopefully, everyone's taking something away from this today. But kind of speaking to like the business outcomes and what that investment does, I think many organizations, especially kind of sitting, in the climate we're sitting in right now, I think sometimes diversity and inclusion can be just seen as a hiring metric. And kind of getting away from that thought process of hiring metric, can you talk about maybe like your experience and how, like when we invest in diverse teams and we actually drive innovation and business outcomes with that, like why should organizations care about this? If you're a company watching this today, or you're a representative that's doing hiring and they're listening to us today, why should they care about this from a hiring perspective?
So when we talk about diversity and inclusion, it's often framed as something organizations should do. But in my opinion, it goes far beyond organizational benefit. Like it's an individual strength as well as a collective advantage, because
Yep.
every person in a team uh, carries a unique journey, right? Different cultures, different experiences, and also most importantly, different ways of thinking. So when those perspectives come together, something powerful happens, right? You start learning from each other, not just about work, but how people approach the problems or communicate their ideas, or even how they view the world, right? Sometimes it's something as simple as learning about someone's culture or language, right? Other times it's seeing like a completely different way of how this person is solving a problem compared to how you approach a problem, right? And that type of diversity and inclusion, I think that brings a lot of exposure
Yeah.
and help building a lot of awareness and empathy, especially respect in the workplace.
Yeah.
And from an innovative or business standpoint of view, fresh perspectives are where the best ideas actually come from. Like when everyone thinks the same way, I mean, the solutions stay very predictable. You know how you're going to approach it. You know the solutions are pretty straightforward. But when the diverse perspectives meet, that's where the creativity expands, right? So diversity is like it's not just about representation. Like it's about creating an environment where people can learn from each other and build some really better innovative solutions together in the business.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. In fact, we just had this conversation in one of our meetings on Monday,
Oh, okay.
because we're a we're a global team. So this conversation came up from all things of sports. We had some team
Mhm.
members in India teaching me some things that were popular and going on with cricket, right?
Oh, yes.
And I
Yeah.
kind of, we just were talking about it from that perspective. It's like when you get so many different people and places together, you start learning more. And I think if you think back to where you've been the most successful, not just you, but me, anyone listening to this call, it's probably when there's been multiple different minds,
Yeah.
that maybe there is some conversations that are differing opinions and you're going back and forth and it's for the good of something else. So I think that's
Yeah.
a really important point that you brought up, and absolutely right. And I think just from that perspectives conversation, I think we all have a lot of different perspectives, especially early in our career. You're trying to figure out which direction you want to go. So this brings me to my next kind of question here for
Mhm.
you, for aspiring technologists. I
Mhm.
know that many of the attendees are either early in their career. We have some mid-career too that are, on our bench. They're in tech. Maybe they're transitioning to tech. Maybe they've had a different area that they've been in, and they're kind of making this transition or a hard turn, similar to how you've kind of moved throughout your career. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to women who want to enter fields like data science or be in tech consulting,
Mhm.
transportation? What
Yeah.
advice would you give them to support them in the industry? What advice do you wish you would have had coming up?
One of the biggest pieces of advice I always share is like not just for data science or tech consulting, but for any career or at any level, is to never ever underestimate the power of your soft skills.
Yep.
Technology knowledge is incredibly important, but the ability to communicate ideas clearly and explain those complex concepts to a non-technical audience, or having that good collaboration with the teams and leading the conversations, that is what truly amplifies your impact as a team member at any organization that we work at. And beyond those, soft skills, mindset also plays an equally important role. Um, I highly recommend is that you don't be afraid to say yes to opportunities, even if they don't look exactly like the role you imagine for yourself. Because sometimes the opportunities that seems small today, it becomes the stepping stone to something much, much bigger tomorrow. Like even my journey when I was looking for a full-time job everywhere, and I was giving this multiple interviews while working as a part-time as a web developer for Rental Consulting, and I was looking everywhere else for a full-time job. And I didn't see that, the person that I was reporting to when I was working with the website development was actually looking how dedicatedly I was working, how adaptable I was, how eager I am to learn new technology, even in a new industry, right? And another most important pillar in today's world is that networking. I think that is something that goes beyond simply submitting a job application, right?
Yeah.
Building intentional connections truly, truly matters. That has been a game changer in my journey, because reaching out to people and having that meaningful conversations, whether using portals like LinkedIn and connecting people over there who you aspire and look at them and want to be in that position sometime in the future, you have to go ahead and try to build a connection with them, like an intentional connection. Those relationships often open doors that applications alone cannot, right? You never truly know where your next opportunity might come from. Another lesson I've learned is to never be afraid to take risks, because growth rarely happens inside our comfort zones, right? And most importantly, we should not be afraid to fail, because every failure, it carries a lesson. I've went through a lot of, not just interviews process, but there's so many others, situations where I feel like, okay, this, what happened? Why did I fail? But I think every setback, it teaches something really valuable, and every achievement becomes just another stepping stone towards the next level of growth, right? So if we approach our career with that curiosity and resilience and the courage to keep learning, I think we start seeing challenges not as obstacles but as opportunities to evolve. And I think that mindset can truly, truly change everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I 1000% agree with you. I think a couple of things that you said are really valuable here. Starting with that, mindset, speaking to that, I think a lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome, especially women.
Yes.
I think because we're so used to seeing um, it being all men in a meeting, and not necessarily that the men are doing anything intimidating, but it is
Yeah.
kind of intimidating in any scenario, whether
Yeah.
you're the only woman or whatever that scenario is, to kind of not just speak your mind, but to feel like you're, fitting in, I guess. And I
Yeah.
remember years ago, I was listening to an interview with President Obama, and he
Mm-hmm.
basically was asked a question regarding sitting at these tables with these important people, especially like early in his career, like before he became president. And he's like, I think you realize once you get up there that everyone is the same. Not that he's
Yeah.
dumbing those people down, but we're all the same. We're all
Correct.
human. We wake up every day. We have the same problems in life. And I think that mindset is so important. From my perspective, it's a sales perspective. Growing up the last 20 years in this industry doing sales, you have to make sure that you have the right mindset every day, because you will get knocked down and be told no. But also when it comes to presenting your ideas in the team. So I love
Yeah.
that. Absolutely. And networking, you're totally right. I would definitely say too, just ask for it. You never know if you don't ask. I think we've all like had those messages from people in the past that maybe they kind of beat around the bush, right? And they don't really
Yeah.
ask the question outright, or maybe it's a Facebook message, someone's asking you to fundraiser or whatever. And I think you
Yeah.
kind of read those messages, you're like, can you just ask what you want? So I think also just the communication component of asking what you want in the mentorship and with the
Yeah.
networking is super important. People respond well to just you being straight with them. And people don't realize how much that networking really, really helps. So no, I think these are all great points. You've raised some very, very important points, and we need more people like you kind of giving this advice out. So also, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. We're kind of getting towards the end here of the questions that we had kind of pre-prepared and things that I wanted to make sure that we covered today. But I did want to share something that I saw on your LinkedIn that I love, and I wanted to just kind of hear where you came up with this, the aspire to inspire, your kind of mantra, if you will. I'm curious, like, what does this phrase mean to you? Like, where did you come up with this? Like, where was this approach from? Like, how have you used this in your career and leadership?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that question. It's one that is very, very close to my heart. For a long time, my idea behind aspire to inspire was pretty simple. I wanted my journey to inspire others who were trying to walk a similar path. But something changed recently that made me see it in a much, much deeper way. So at the Grace Hopper celebration, I actually hosted several brain dead sessions where I had the chance to meet incredible women from all over the world. And during one of those conversations, a woman told me something I will never forget. So she goes, "Your words are so impactful. Even the hardest things became easier to understand after just a few minutes talking with you. And the inspiration you gave me makes me want to go share it with other women around me." That moment changed how I thought about my own message. It wasn't just about inspiring one person. It was about inspiring someone who then goes to inspire many others. And that's when I realized the true power of aspire to inspire, when that inspiration becomes that ripple effect where each person lifts someone else. That's where the real change begins. I think those are some things that I've always been looking around in my career as I was going through each phase in my career. And I thought to myself, like, why don't I start doing that before I expect the world to give that to me? Right. And that's where this ripple effect line comes along. And for me, that's the kind of impact that truly, truly matters in my journey, whether it's personally or professionally. So
Yeah, no,
that's
I
the
love
main
that.
story.
It was something that jumped out to me because it was on your LinkedIn. And kind of side note regarding your LinkedIn, anybody that's watching this, if you feel like you struggle on your LinkedIn, you're not sure what it should look like, go find Sheetal's LinkedIn. I'm telling you, it's one of the best LinkedIns I've ever seen. Not only is everything filled out, which I tell our bench folks all the time, I'm like, this is the things you should do on LinkedIn. This is why you should do it. Not only is it filled out and gorgeous, but you've got the photos on there, you've got all your titles, you've got so much content, but you've also actually taken the time to write some articles and put up different certification certificates and all of that. So, and photos, like, you're kind of like what you should be doing on LinkedIn. So I wanted to point that out to anybody who wants to find Sheetal after today. She really does live up to the example that she's talking about. So
thank you.
I wanted to share that. But
I just wanted to add another point, because that reminded me of something that I was trying to build a portfolio of my own, because I wanted to speak the portfolio that looks like me, that sounds like me. It doesn't just have the projects that I worked on, like all the development projects or the products that I've been working on, but it also has to speak the kind of person I am. So I just built the portfolio and shared it across with my friends and close family friends to get their opinion. And they're like, "Why is your website all pink and white? It's supposed to, like, you're a computer science, so you should have some code floating around in the background." And I was like, that doesn't look like me. I like pink, I like white, so I'll have that in my background. So I think that is also very important, that you stay true to yourself and never lose yourself in that journey. And I think that has definitely played a very important role in my journey. So
I can so relate, because I have pink headphones on right now, as I'm sure you can see. And I remember I got these for Christmas about 3 years ago, like right when I had started working at Cogent, actually. And I remember my boss, Justin, so I'm not sure if he's on here today. He probably not, because I think there's some coinciding meetings, but he's our executive vice president. And very supportive. But I'll never forget, I got into a meeting and he's like, those are pink. And I'm like, yeah, they are. But, you know, we were getting our relationship at that point. And I remember I said to him at that point, I was like, I feel a little embarrassed, a little showy. And he's like, no, they're fine. But, you know, that's who I am. You know, if I took the blur off my screen, you'd see that there's like a pink wall here in my home. You know, it's how I am. You know, I'm in my late 30s and I've never grown out of that. And I think that right there is important advice, even if you're not a pink girl, you know, not everybody is pink, but whatever is for you, you should stay true to, because I think if you look around with men as well, they have things that they stay true to with themselves. Even if it comes to like a decorative cufflink or the style of their shoes or the decorative socks, they have their things as well. And I think it's really important for women that we show up as ourselves every day, because it's just part of who we are. And it can be personal as long as it's professional, right? That's what I always tell our bench. I'm like, personal and professional, you're all good. So I love that you said that. Definitely have to have a touch of yourself out there.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, we haven't had any questions other than a bunch of compliments for you. Oh, we do have a question. Okay, great. And this is from one of our team members. So excellent. Love that we have that. Let me see if we can have our moderator, Kartik, pull it up on the screen for everyone to see. But it says, beyond individual effort, what is one structural change tech companies should implement to ensure that giving to women's advancement is really built into the company's DNA?
So if I got it right, do you mind repeating that question?
Yeah, I think really the shortened version of it is when you're thinking about advancing women, and for a company that really wants to make sure advancing women is ingrained into the company culture, what do you think is like one structural change or one simple change most companies could implement? Or I don't want to say a rule, but what's a change or something that they could have that would actually support that initiative through their company?
I think most importantly is giving the equal opportunity to get the opinion of a woman in a team, and truly believe in their decision and truly follow in their decision and trust the suggestion that they make, because sometimes I've noticed in other companies that I worked, where they ask because they have to, but not really listen what they're trying to give their opinion about a certain thing. So I think it's really important you're not just listening, but truly give attention and work towards the opinion of a woman in the team and trust the decision or the call the woman takes in a team. And I think it starts by bringing a lot of awareness activities across teams and having, like one-on-one sessions, and try to have that, build that environment where making them feel that it's okay to voice out their opinion and still feel like, okay, I'm not going to be talked over. They're going to trust in what I say. So now that they have invested that trust in me, it's important that I make that decision right,
Okay. Yeah. No, and I totally agree with that. And I think you're right when it comes to, and that's really a simple numbers thing. And it's not that I want to think about it as a metric, but I think simply when you're looking at your team and you don't have enough women in these decision-making places, that's what it comes down to, because then you don't get their opinion. And I've been at companies that do this really well, and I've been at companies that maybe could stand for a bit more improvement. And to be honest with you, I think everywhere I've been, it's not been intentional when women haven't been included in that situation. I think because it's just been the norm and not the standard that women are in the room, that it doesn't always happen. So that's a great point. And I think that that's really a basic, simple conversation to have for every company. I think the baseline is have a woman in the room for those decisions.
Right.
That's it. Right. It doesn't even have to say, if you don't want to say women, make sure it's a diverse perspective. Make sure not everyone's the same, right? But obviously for the context of today's conversation, we're talking about that. I think, and another question for you. So many women, I think in IT feel that, doing good work should be enough. How do you think we can use our networks to really increase our visibility without it feeling like bragging? Again, you've done a great job with your LinkedIn. It doesn't look like bragging to me. You're talking about what you're passionate about. But how do you think we can use our networks to increase that visibility so we're not feeling like we're bragging?
So I think it's really important that we are not very much concerned about what people are thinking about us, like what kind of perspective that they might have about us. It's
Mhm.
just how intentional network or a connection that you're trying to do towards a particular person. And especially being in IT field, I've seen a lot of times myself where we're given this bunch of work and we are trying to do so much to prove ourselves. uh, but at the same time, it's burdening you and you don't want to say no, because we are trained this way that if you say no, it means you're just hurting the person. But I think we should also be mindful, and have enough awareness to say when we are not okay with lots and lots of work being pushed towards us, but at the same time we are still able to bring a lot of value to the table, and making that intention without expecting that person's point of view would change about me, and just having to just try having you to try, but not hoping that their perspective would change just by you going and making the connection. You're just trying
Yeah.
and you're doing best, and if they're willing to learn about you, know about you, that's totally on them. It's
Yeah.
okay if they're not, and it's totally fine if they don't want to, they don't like you. That's totally fine as well, right? But you're just trying to do your best, and prove yourself that you have equal value that you could bring to the table, and a very new perspective that you could bring to the table, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I agree. I feel everything you're saying is resonating for sure. And I'm hoping that it's resonating with our audience today. There's been so much good content. And I hope that we'll be able to have you back in the future for another event. But just to kind of close things out, is there anything else that you wanted to share today, or any advice that maybe I didn't ask you about? And if not, that's okay. Not a trick question. But I just want to make sure I'm not leaving you without the opportunity to close things out the way you'd like to.
uh I truly want to thank you again, Sarah and Cogent team, for bringing this conversation together. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. I was really excited, and I truly feel still excited that I was able to share those perspectives. And I'm definitely walking out of the session learning a thing or two more about myself as well. So thank you so much for asking those meaningful questions to me, Sarah. And I truly, truly hope something from our experiences resonates with you, in the audience, and encourages you all to keep pushing forward in your journey. So thank you so much for having me today. Uh,
Yeah. Thank you. We'll definitely have you back. You have some great perspectives. And again, thank you so much for joining our panel and letting us spotlight you and your work today. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone
Thank
that's joined us today as well.
you. All right.
Thanks, everyone. We'll leave it there. All right. Have a good rest of your week, everyone, and upcoming weekend. Bye.